All right, let's go ahead and get started. Could I get a designated note taker for today?
I'm happy to do it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Next up, we have new faces. I think I recognize everyone here. So we can hop into it. It is the first meeting of the month, I believe. We should be doing a quick little roadmap update. Let me share my screen. Can y'all see that? Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. I've gotten everything set up. Sorry. Let's start out with the in progress section. So we first have this distribute Buildpacks via Docker Hub. And this appears to just be down to someone needs to run a find and replace command over the website in various readmes. Okay.
We did recently, there was like a comment there about whether or not we have this like open source project badge or something on Docker Hub. I think like as of a couple of weeks ago, Docker has gotten around to giving all of our images this open source project badge. So pretty happy with that new badge. Nice shiny badge.
I love a shiny badge. All right, so in that case then, how do we actually drive out action to do this other than somebody just taking it upon themselves and doing this? Cool, it sounds like someone taking it upon themselves and doing it is the answer to that question. I think that it's probably fair for us to ping just language family maintainers in general and say, hey, go to your readmes and check. Probably go to your readmes and make sure that they're all accurate. You should probably just give them a read, but go to your readmes and make sure that they are pointing at Docker images, and then to do the same with the website. So I can start harassing people. Let me find my notebook. All right, great. Next up, we have Node.js Yarn supports Yarnberry. I think Tim, who's been driving most of this out, is unfortunately out sick today. Yeah, I don't know that there's much update. I know that he's been hopeful that he will be able to get the first leg of this done soon, but has been dragged around to other priorities in his maintainer space. All right, let's move to status investigation. Reloadable process types. Are there any updates here?
The only one that's left is Ruby. We just never really got around to implementing it in Ruby. I think it's mostly like the barrier there is there's just a lot of there's a lot of Ruby start command build packs, and so it's just like a bunch of work. And we haven't heard a resounding affirmation from the Ruby community that this is like a feature that they desperately need. So we just haven't had it high on our priority list to get to.
Okay. Do we want to keep this as status investigation needed, or do we want to move this to like in progress, planned?
I'm not sure there's an investigation needed. I think it's pretty clear that Ruby is the only one that's left.
All right. So do we want to move I guess then the question is, do we want to move it to in progress or planned? Because the progress is not.
I would say
technically happening
planned.
yet.
There's no
Okay,
one working on it right now.
perfect. That's, I think that's the only update. The only other thing would be, I guess, this Spring Boot dev tool integration. And I have no idea what the status of that is. We should reach out to Dan Makuza. And then this next one is default behavior for Buildpacks set language ecosystem environment variables. That's quite a mouthful. I think that we went through here a while ago and it was out of investigation. I think that a couple of things have been sewn up, at least in the .NET case. So I need to go in and check that. And then I think I still need feedback from NPM and yarn install. Get some more feedback from maintainers on this. But I think that it's like effectively almost wrapped up. I'm not sure. But I think I'll keep it in status needs investigation, and then someone should go in and I think prod this a little bit. Okay. Next up, we have stuff that is planned. I guess we can open these up really quickly and see if there's any movement on these. So remote debug, I don't think that there's been any movement on this. No more progress on stuff like this. All right. Then I think that we can keep it in planned, and it will probably stay in planned for a while as these sort of like the need and want for these slowly shuffle in, I think. Although thinking about this, web servers might be something interesting to investigate. I feel like we added some thing for maybe Nginx in terms of how we were compiling Nginx to allow for some form of remote debugging, but I would have to investigate that further. That may have been also just for reloadable process types, and I'm getting them.
I think it's just for debug logging.
Okay.
The concept with remote debugging is like that you can attach like a debugger to the process. And I don't think we've done anything to make that work. And I'm not sure that Nginx has that kind of functionality at all.
All right, that makes sense. I think it's fair to keep this here then. I think this is also probably fair to keep this here. I don't know that anyone has made any progress on this. All right, and then finally we have define image and dependency retention policy for Paketo images. I think this is still waiting on some work from Dan, isn't it? We may want to at him in this issue at some point soon with is there anything like, I don't know specifically what we're still waiting for on Dan. So Ryan, if you know specifically what, if you could at Dan and say, hey, we're still waiting for X, Y, or Z, that would be appreciated. Awesome. All right, finally, we have two no statuses. So two new stuff. We have create language family builders. I think this one is in the name. There's a proposal to create builders for specific language families. I believe that the main driving of this was for Java. Has any work started on that? Or could this be moved into just planned?
I'm not aware of anything started on that.
Okay, but I think it's probably fair to move this into planned. It's, the RFC is through. Perfect. And then create static jammy build pack list builder.
Yeah, so this was something that was written in the RFC for the static stack, as we're like, oh, we should make a builder for it. But then we started to explore it, and we sort of realized that maybe this doesn't actually work as seamlessly as we hoped. And we didn't want to make a builder until we had at least like one reference build pack that could actually use the stack. So, and it's like not, the priority is not that high, right? So I'm not quite sure how this is ever going to move into planned until and unless someone actually cares enough to try to sort of figure out what changes might need to be made to Buildpacks or the stack to make this happen. The stack exists. The RFC said we should make a builder, so the story says we should make a builder. But I don't think anyone needs a builder.
And so the stack doesn't work for even statically linked Go binaries.
So yeah, if you obviously I'm not going to like read out the whole of this issue, but if you like dig into it, like I did a little bit of exploration into like using the Go build pack on the static stack, and it doesn't just work in the way that I expected it to, which is to say that it doesn't just make a statically linked, like static compiled binary that works on the static stack. The stack is probably doing the right thing. The stack probably has everything it needs. The build pack probably needs to change, but I haven't received, or the Go maintainers haven't received any feedback that this is a feature that we want to make in the Go ecosystem. So that build pack hasn't changed. We haven't done the exploration, and there's not really a lot of other build packs that we kind of expect to run in a static stack environment anyway.
What about something like just like I literally have a pre-compiled binary, statically linked binary or whatever, and I just want to effectively inject it and run it, and by doing that I'm pointing at a directory that has that, and then I set a start command with procfile.
Yeah, we could do that. That would be like the simplest possible builder that would exist. I guess the question is sort of like, is there value in creating and maintaining such a thing? Right. So maybe I'll just say this a different way. The intention with the RFC was to make a stack. We made the stack. It does what we wanted it to do. We put a line in that says we should make a build pack. A builder. And then so the RFC said like we should make a builder as well as a stack. And then so this story is like to implement the RFC, we have to make a builder. But I don't think we actually need a builder. So I'm not sure what to do with this like implement story, right? Like maybe we need a way of saying like actually we want to scratch this aspect out of the RFC until we get further feedback. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Is like actually the stack doesn't make sense if the builder doesn't make sense, right?
The stack
Although it's already built, well, like if we scratch it, we could scratch the stack as well, right? And say let's pause the RFC, kind of until there's interest for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this
Which
is
I'm wondering, because that was like in the discussions about like I mean that was triggered by our RFC, I think, to add some packages to the tiny stack. And there was an argument that there are actually people interested that would be liking such a smaller footprint stack. Now apparently they are not there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And maybe that was just wrong.
Yeah.
I know that we have like within VMware's like commercial product an interest in this like static stack. I don't know whether or not, basically like I've been pinged in some Slack channels internally asking about it and whether or not it functions in the way we'd expect it to function. I haven't had any feedback positively or otherwise about any sort of success using it in any sort of way.
Maybe you can encourage people to actually step up and comment publicly that they're interested. I mean, they don't have to state that this is for a product.
Sure.
But like otherwise the interest will not show up, apparently.
So it sounds like this is potentially in limbo for a little while. Do I maybe want to put it in needs investigation?
Sounds better than planned for me.
Yeah, it's definitely not planned and it's 100% not in progress. So like maybe it needs investigation, and maybe we can try and reach out to some of those internal VMware folks and see if there's any feedback that can be shared in the Paketo community, and that will either drive out doing this RFC, or we'll learn maybe that this was like the wrong direction and we'll create a process to rescind it.
Sounds good. I think that means that we've made it through everything. Any questions on the roadmap? All right. Let's get into the next items, which are the outstanding RFCs. So first up is going to be a proposal to create UBI base stack. I think that this has...
We're basically there.
Yeah.
I think Dan Makuza is the only person left to sign off on this, and I think he's probably pretty well satisfied. I have a meeting with him in a few hours, and I will impress upon him the importance of looking at this RFC. But I think we're pretty much there.
Yeah, he'd asked for a few last minute changes to make sure that the image names have Paketo community in it. Rather, I've already committed all of those, and then I requested a review from him yesterday on it, but I don't know if he hasn't seen it yet. But yeah, I think that hopefully I've just accepted the changes that he was proposing, so he should be good with them.
Great. Well, hopefully that'll be merged soon. Next up, we have proposed additional JVMs in Java Buildpack.
So this one was blocked for a long time because we didn't have a mechanism to deliver it. But now that the language family RFC is approved and merged, we can open this one back up for discussion.
Awesome. I assume that this is probably you're having discussions about this in like Java working group meetings as well.
No, just
No, fair enough. Is there anything that you'd like to bring up to this other than the fact that it's now unblocked?
yeah, no.
Okay.
This is we just got to get Daniel to look at it again. I think, but I can ping Daniel.
Awesome. And then finally, we have this publish images to ERC. This has been open for a long time.
We decided to not progress on this mostly because we didn't know how to do things like categorize need on particular clouds versus others, right? It became this whole conversation of like, where do we draw the line? Like, is Alibaba Cloud someplace we should be pushing images? Like, it's like, what thing qualifies as like a cloud that's important enough for us to have images located on it? The main goal for this one was mostly to support, there's a product on Amazon that's called App Runner, and there's some conversation in there for them to become a CNV Buildpacks platform and to be able to like natively support Buildpack builds for applications using that product. But they kind of wanted us to provide builder images somewhere that was like closer to where they're running this thing. And I think we kind of decided at the end of the day that if they wanted those things, it's perfectly reasonable for them to pull them themselves from where like the canonical location we have. But yeah, with that kind of left in this like undecided state, we chose to just not press forward with this RFC. So I don't know, there's no advocate for it. Emily is basically not working on the project anymore. I'll have a note about that when we get to the open questions or open discussions section. So yeah, I don't know. I would say like this point, go ahead and close this pull request.
Great. And I think that gets us to the bottom of our outstanding RFCs. Do we have any C&B updates? Okay. Do we have any project updates? No project updates. So let's get into the open mic questions. First one, anyone planning on attending Cloud Foundry Day in Heidelberg, Germany?
Like I just entered that. This was published on the, I think on the Cloud Foundry Slack. I mentioned it briefly in the Paketo. I'd be interested because I'm just like I live like 30 kilometers from there. So I would be around the corner if anyone is there. We could just easily arrange something, and maybe even some colleagues might be there. That's why I'm just asking if somebody asks. It's like besides Corifi as the how to run CF workloads on Kubernetes, that's the other big topic that the CFF is actually putting there is Paketo. So thought that might be of interest for Paketo as well.
I'm not personally aware of anybody going. Yeah.
All good.
All right. Is there anything else for open mic questions and discussion topics?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about, this is I guess a temporary change. The steering committee is going to be meeting a little bit later today to talk about the steering committee composition in the interim between now and when the actual election takes place. And we're going to be making a couple of changes. The first one is that we're going to vote to have Emily Casey retired from the committee. She basically has like stepped away from the project and has had like continuingly less and less involvement over it as like she's, you know, moved on to another kind of phase in her life and found another job and is, you know, no longer involved that much in container build stuff. And so it doesn't make sense for us to just have this kind of like extra steering committee member that counts in our quorum counts and isn't really actually there to vote on anything. So we'll have her move to the kind of emeritus status. The other one is that I'm going to be leaving on parental leave from VMware. So because of that, I'm basically going to be MIA for a number of months, including the months that cover the elections. And so for the update on the elections is that the CFF would like us to hold the Paketo elections in tandem with the CFF talk elections, which happen kind of the middle of May to the middle of June. So it's like kind of a month-long election process resulting in, you know, a decision at the end of or in the middle of June. In the meantime, between now, when I kind of start my parental leave, which may happen anytime in the next weekish time period, and the middle of May, I've asked Forrest here to step in to basically fill my position on the steering committee as an interim person. Like discussed in the RCs, like as soon as the elections happen, you know, the existing membership, Forest membership included, will dissolve, and like the results of the election will decide who the continuing members of the steering committee are. So this is not a permanent position. This is just filling the interim time period so that we don't end up in a situation with the only person able to approve anything is Dan Makuza. So just making sure we have at least 2 people showing up for the steering committee. So yeah, I'm going to be meeting with Dan later today. All of this has already been like kind of pre-decided, but we will like formally meet and have a vote to have this take place. And we'll record it in the meeting notes. Just wanting to make sure that that's happening transparently, so that it doesn't seem like some sort of backroom deal that's taking place. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that steering committee stuff. Look forward to seeing the results of the election when they happen coming up. That should be an exciting time.
Only semi-related. You've been a big help on the work we're doing related to the node extension. Who would you suggest is the person to chat with while you're away on that?
I would certainly reach out to anyone that's on the node maintainers team. So you should be able in Slack. It's like Buildpacks Node.js is the Slack handle, or, you know, open issues against any of the node repositories. Specifically, those people are Timothy Hitchner and Victoria Campbell.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone else have any other discussion topics they'd like to bring up? Great. Thank you so much for coming to the meeting. See y'all.
See you all. Bye.
Bye.